Welcome to the Path to Purpose interview show, where we share our unique and universal stories about finding and fulfilling our purpose. My name is Katja and I'm your host and story coach and mentor for purpose-driven entrepreneurs. My intention for this show is to inspire you on your path to purpose. Today, I have a pleasure to interview Christie Ruffino, who is a serial entrepreneur, podcast host, and a best-selling author with 14 books. She has been featured in Inc.com, WGN Radio, and The Morning Blend on NBC TV. She has built 3 six-figure businesses, has studied under a long list of business icons, and has over 3 decades of business experience helping over 3,000 women increase their business revenue through clarity, collaboration, and increased visibility. So today she'll share with us how you can get more clients. And we talk also about one of my favorite topics, that is stories. So let's get started here. So welcome, Christie. I'm super excited that you are here.
Oh, I'm really excited to be here too. We're going to have so much fun together.
Oh, yes. And I mentioned briefly your bio, but I'm always curious, like, how could you do what you do now? Like, was there a special event that led you to this path?
You know what? It was a series of events. And for me, it was just being open to listen to my calling and, take the obstacles along the way and figure out how to just kind of keep evolving in a way that will help me live into my true purpose. And, that's my story. We all have many stories and it keeps evolving. But right now I kind of love where I'm at and I love the people I serve. It's just really fun. And I'm sure you can relate.
I do, yes. And it is really, and this is something I'm sharing as well with the audience, always like finding your true calling, that purpose that you mentioned as well. So how did you know that this is it? That's like that.
Well, so I have, as a serial entrepreneur, I have had many businesses throughout my life. And the first thing is, wherever I was at and whatever business I was working on, I felt that was the right business at the time. But it's funny. I always felt that there was something, like I kind of hadn't arrived yet, that I was still working on it and I was getting there and I was, 3 feet from gold, right? I'm getting there. I'm moving closer. But it wasn't until somebody asked me to share my story that I really recognized the power our story has in our life. Because for me, the first time I shared it, it was therapeutic for me. So it was a huge growth process. Of course, it helped my business. And there were so many other benefits, which we'll talk about. But the biggest thing is it allowed me to really reflect on what I had accomplished and what I went through and just own the mess. And then it allowed me to open up the space to kind of really write my next story.
I love that. And there is a little bit similar incident for me. Somebody asked me, I went to a palm reader who asked me, why don't you write? And that opened up a door for me to start sharing my story that I've been hiding 15 years. Nice. So it is, again, those questions we hear can be the just opening a door for something beautiful. So glad that you got that opportunity as well to, start sharing your story. And
especially for women. I think women sometimes don't value what we've done. We just put our heads down and we do it, right? But when I said no the first time to share my story, the person that asked me kind of challenged me, and she just said, well, hey, if your story could help just one person. Yes. And then I had to think, well, gosh, when I went through what I was going through and I didn't see a light at the end of the tunnel, how would that have helped me to be able to read somebody else's story that was already on the other side?
Yeah.
And so whether our story is a messy story or a like great story where we have accomplished something amazing, it is really a great way that we can help other people.
I totally agree. Amen for that.
Yeah.
Like that is definitely something that we can share and help others. And why that is really a key as well. Why to share your story? Because you can help someone. But is there other reasons why it's so important, especially for entrepreneurs, to discover, own, and share their story?
Yeah, so we want to really own our story and share it so we can inspire others. But another piece to that, another layer, right, is to now also equip them. So we don't want to just get them all excited and not give them some sort of resources or tools. So when I work with my clients, sometimes they really get so involved with their story that they think it's about them. And it's really not about us. It's about our audience, our reader, our, whoever is hearing us. And so we want to then be able to either weave in some strategies in our story, or at the end, when we share our stories, still leave them some sort of resources where they can now go take some sort of action. And I know we kind of talked about that, before we hit the record is, we want to not only talk about story, but we want to teach the audience. We want to give them tangible tips. We want to give them something where they can go out and like start doing something to adopt leveraging story in their life or in their business.
Totally. Yes, I am. I really want to also give those tools. And that's why I ask you, like, okay, let's ensure that there is something that people can actually implement and do, because I believe that's also a step forward. And yeah, I get that. Like when we start, I don't know about you, but I had this fear and resistance opening the door to my story, and I had all kind of stories within my head what people would think about me even if they would hear my story. And that go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, because there's a lot of people out there with different personalities, and I tend to be an introvert. It sounds like you maybe are an introvert, and for us the challenge is to be able to kind of be vulnerable, right? Because I always kept my private life private and my business life. And I thought it was okay to have that separation. But the minute I let my clients kind of get a little bit of insight onto who I am through my story, it created that instant connection, right? That bond and that ongoing loyalty. And then we've got the extroverts in the world, right? That they love sharing their story and they love talking and they love the audience. However, they have a hard time reining in their story. And sometimes they just talk and it's not necessarily relative to the point they're trying to make. And so they've got to be able to rein it in, where we've got to let it out.
Yeah. I love that you kind of have tools for both now. Like, okay, if you're introvert, this is what you can do. And if you're extrovert, pay attention here, so that you can use your story as a supportive way to connect. And about that, like effective ways and strategies, what, in your opinion, what is the most effective strategy to use to help entrepreneurs use the story to increase revenue, get more clients? So what are the secrets there?
Okay, so I'm going to give you the first secret is, before you start leveraging your story, make sure you have the right story. And the best way to do that is with a little bit of market research. So ask clients, right? Ask people that know you. Because it's, for me and for many of my clients, most of the clients I've worked with, we have so many stories in our head, right? And so how do we pick the right story? How do we know the story that we need to share at the right time? Because we may want to share a different story depending on who our audience is. But to figure out our signature story, which is our why story, right? Why we're doing what we're doing, why our ideal client is going to realize we're the solution to their problem. That is a story we want to hone in on. And sometimes it's hard for us to do. So market research will help us kind of like bring that together, because we just listen to what our clients tell us, and then we're able to now hone in on that story. But then once you've figured out your signature story, I really suggest that everybody takes a look first at their website, because when people want to work with you, they're going to vet you, even if they're just checking you out, right? They want to go to your website and they want to see who you are. They want to see what your success stories are. And the most visited page of your site is your homepage, but the second most visited page is your about page. And you really should be able to not have that page be just a bunch of like data, right? We don't want to have a bio that's just a bunch of facts. We want to be able to tell your story, why you are doing what you're doing, so your ideal client can say, you know what, they get me, right? They understand my problem, and they really will just identify with you as the person to at least maybe check out a little further. So your website, make sure your story is in your signature talk. Get on as many podcasts, share your story, make sure you have some teaching tips. I always recommend people having a book, if you don't want to have a whole book around you, because if you're going to have a whole book sharing your story and your wisdom, which I believe everybody in business should, your how-to book, but you've got to have a lot of marketing power to get that in the hands of a lot of people, which is why my thing is to help people get their story out in a co-authored book, because now you've got a bunch of other people getting your story in front of their audience as well. And so it just is able to create this ripple effect. Even if they don't reach out to you to work with you, now you're still helping them by getting your story in front of a lot of different people, where they can maybe own it themselves, read it themselves, or share your story with somebody else that will really resonate with your message.
Yeah, I love that, because also like thinking of writing a chapter in a book is a little bit different than writing a book. I have written books, so I know it's kind of more doable. Like, okay, I can do a chapter
faster. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. And having the community as well, other writers. So I really love that idea. Yeah. And then you mentioned the struggle. So just want to check in your opinion, like, why do so many entrepreneurs struggle with sharing their stories? We hear about like, you should go out there and share your signature story or origin story, whatever you want to call it. But many people are hiding their stories. So why do you think that is?
Well, I think a lot of entrepreneurs, they may be doing okay in business, and they think, well, I've already gotten this far without sharing my story. It's not really that relative. Everybody's talking about story, but it's not necessary. But I've seen many of my clients that had that mindset and then started making some shifts in their business, integrating their story and their messaging, integrating more story in their email marketing, integrating their story. Definitely, when somebody first finds you, maybe they'll check out your website. Yeah, they're going to learn a little bit about you. Maybe they opt in to get your free gift, but now the follow-up email should be sharing a little bit about who you are. And so I think it's just maybe the lack of recognition about how much your story will really help you, because all of my clients who started integrating in stories, they had a noticeable shift in more client attraction and conversion.
Yeah, I love that, because it really story. I say always, like, story is making you unique. It's just differentiates you from the competition, because you might be offering similar services, but then if you share your story, you stand out, and the people can say like, oh, I really resonate with that.
No, it does. It the marketing alone will help you get in front of a lot of people, but your message is what's going to get your ideal clients to take notice of you, right? Because they'll hear you, they'll hear your story, they'll hear, what you're saying, and they'll relate to you because they're usually, not always, but usually our story is about us in our rear view mirror, like what we've gone through.
Yeah.
And so who knows more how to help the people that were back there than us, because we've already been through, we've come out on the other side. And when we're able to share our stories, our ideal client can recognize it, and they'll be like, okay, help me get to where you're at.
Yeah. And that's just giving that light. And I know many of our listeners, they want to be the spark of light, like you have the spark of light.
I have the sun keeps moving and the light keeps going on my face.
So now if somebody is inspired to, they want to start sharing their story. So besides contacting you, which I of course recommend, what is the one thing now that they can, you mentioned earlier the market research, but what can they do to start sharing their story and getting more clients? So what would you recommend?
Well, first, I think when you start putting your story together, get clear about what the next step you want that person to do once they've read your story. It's like having that goal in mind, because if you are clear on what that is, you're sharing your message in a way that is creating a journey, right? Yeah. Your story is taking that audience person through certain journey, but you don't want to leave them hanging. So get clear on what that next step is, whether it is a resource guide that you can give them, whether it is, a strategy call to help with the next step of the process. But just really get clear on what that outcome is. Because I know I've seen so many speakers, amazing speakers, that I was captivated by their message. They shared their story. They shared great wisdom. But when they were done, I had no way to take the next step. And so I kind of felt, and I feel that we're not doing our audience, we're not doing the world a favor if we don't at least offer some sort of next step. Don't look at it as being pushy or salesy. Just, it's there. A checklist, a guide, or, something that will now get those people that need your help into your ecosystem. And then it's up to them, when the timing is right for them, they'll stand up and say, hey, I need help. But until then, at least just give them some sort of an option.
That's beautiful. And now, talking about options, you have definitely given us a lot to think about. And you have put together a special gift for the community. So could you share a little bit about it?
I have. And so if you are listening and think, okay, you know what, I've got a great story, I'm not quite sure how to use it, and maybe I'm not sure what story to use, and there's just a lot of question marks that came up through our conversation, but you want to do something. I've created a amazing 7-step process. It's actually a whole system. It is a guide, a couple of mini micro courses that you can go through the whole process of identifying your signature story and how to put it together in a way that's going to be compelling for the audience, and how to share in a way that's going to hopefully bring you in a few potential prospects. And so I know you'll share the link. It's my story selling made easy system. And then, it's totally free. You can just go through the training and, see how it helps you, get those first few steps underway.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. So check out, the link is in the below, so you can find it there. And now, as we start wrapping up, do you have a special final message that you would like to share with the audience?
You know what? I think the message would be is just recognize the value of your story and think. So one of the exercises in the guide is just think about people in your life who have influenced you in a powerful way, and how that has helped you maybe accomplish something or pivot to a better, better next step. And so think of yourself as that person for others, and just own your story and realize that everything that has happened to you happened for a reason. Your mess is your most powerful message in the world. Just feel confident in sharing it and realize that there's somebody out there right now that last night was up all night worrying about something that you could be able to help them with. So if you think about it from that perspective, I know you're all going to go out there and do it.
Yes. Wonderful. Thank you so much, Christie, for your time and all the work that you do in the world. And thank you for watching the Path to Purpose interview show. If you like this interview, give it thumbs up. And I am sending you lots of light, lots of love. Stay well and stay tuned for the next episode. Bye for now.
Thank you. Bye-bye.